we'll call to order the Audit and Finance meeting of Independence, October 22nd, 2021. Committee members present is Karen DeLucy, good to have you. Daniel Hobart, good to have you. Staff in attendance, Zach Walker, Ryan Kidney, Cindy Gray, Erica, Lindsay, and then I'm trying to see who else do we have. Do we have Ron and Pam? Are they both here?
So neither Ron or Pam were able to make it on a Friday afternoon.
Okay.
You do also have your secretary, Sheila Saxton, is on taking minutes. And then also Nancy Cooper, our accounting manager, is on, I think. And looks like Steve Wagner is also on handling the recording.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Minutes. Has anybody had a chance to overlook the minutes? Any changes that need to be made?
No.
I don't see any.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in second. Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right. New carrying on over business, the Munis implementation update. So my thought for the meeting today is just kind of move fairly quickly. Committee members, staff, if there's anything that we might gloss over too fast, stop us, slow us down. Any questions, please shout them out. Timeline. Looks like we're on track. I don't see any particular cause for concern. If Councilwoman DeLucy or Councilman Hobart has any concerns there, any concerns from staff?
Nope.
Everything on track, Mr. Kidney?
Yes, it is. And I'll point out Ms. Gray is the director of that operation. And so, Cindy, do you have anything that you would like to add to that? Maybe to.
Only thing would like to add the transparency portal. We did have a training session on the transparency portal, and Tyler Technologies has provided us with a test site for us to look at. So internal staff is reviewing that, making some changes. We'll take it to a peer group to have them look at, and then we'll bring it to this committee to review at a future meeting. So it's going along really well. We also had had some timekeeping sessions over the last couple of weeks. Are you guys getting a lot of feedback?
Yes. I don't know
I
if
am
it's you or
too, and
somebody else. Yeah.
Not sure what it is, but I'm hearing it as well. We also I had some meetings over the last 2 weeks on going through the ExecuTime, and so that's going very well. We're working through just the basic parts of the rules with ExecuTime, and coming up here in November to go over with each department their rules that are specific to them. And then
Good.
We're taking this a very slow approach, very steady approach. So wanted you to know that we're on moving forward with that and working with the departments. So it's all good.
Great.
One question I did have on the timekeeping and scheduling software project, additional configurations and testing sessions are scheduled over the next few months for the departments. Is that going to any way hinder how payroll is moving and going forward now? How will that be handled?
Right now, we're really working on just getting the ExecuTime rules in place. And as we meet with the departments, how time is being entered in is that discussion we'll have with each of the departments. Does that answer your question?
Kinda. So there won't be, as you're going through these sample sessions, I mean, that's not going to mess with anything currently now. I mean,
oh, no,
there should be any expectation of someone's paycheck being delayed or.
No.
Okay.
Nope, it's not affecting current practices right now. No.
Perfect. Moving forward on that, looks good. No further questions I can see from the committee or staff. We'll move on to the next. Finance administrative items, monthly financial presentation. Brian.
Yeah, let me share my screen, and I'll just have financial statements up there that this group would be able to see. Sorry, I forgot to hit share the screen. I started talking about it. And so can you guys see my screen?
I have your little login picture. It's on
Yes.
my mobile, so it's
Let
okay.
me try that again. Try this one.
Nailed it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Again, so we're looking at the second period of the month or of the year. So there's not a lot of activity that's happened. I'm sorry, third. Yeah, me and counting. There you go. This is actually the third period of the year. So again, not a lot going on. Let me start back up on the top, and I want to just pass along. I appreciate Cindy putting these graphs together because they really do help, at least with my understanding where things are. So the first item to mention is real estate taxes. We don't receive our property taxes until November. So on the accompanying spreadsheets or reports after this memo, you'll notice that there's no money collected for property tax yet. And so that will impact the general fund and the health and parks and recreation funds. And that's nothing to be concerned with. It's just that we haven't received our property tax a lot until then. Sales tax, we put 3 years on top of each other on this one graph. The light blue color is 2 years ago. The purple color is this last year. And these three first red dots are the first 3 months of the period. And what we're happy to see here is that we're matching with at least where we ended up this time last year on sales taxes. We're well above where we were through the first part of the pandemic. We used a 0.5% increase over last year's actuals for our budget. And I'm happy to say we're right on track with that budget forecast. So just wanted to share that, kind of give you a perspective of where we are. So we're tracking very well, a little bit above. If you see for the first month, we came in a little bit higher, but last 2 months have been right on track where we were last year.
Brian, do you have any concerns maybe coming through for November, December, January for the holiday here with supply shortages? Maybe shoppers are having to do things differently this year?
Yeah, that's always a concern, obviously. You know, one of the areas I think that we really do have the advantage is the use tax component. If we're not going to be collecting sales taxes, I'm hoping at least, you know, a lot of times when you're purchasing things, the use tax will hit even before delivery. And so I'm hoping even if there's some kind of a delay, we may not see it where a person's going to the store. There might be something out of that they were looking for, but possibly be able to purchase online. So I'm hoping if there is any drop in sales tax, we'll see it on the use tax portion. Okay. Moving down then, talking about the use tax, we're literally right on track where we had budgeted our use tax, which was a little bit higher than what we actually saw last year. In fact, we used a 2% increase over last year. And then you can see on these red lines, again, we're staying with red for the current fiscal year over these blue lines. These are roughly 2% over what we collected the first 3 months of last year in the use tax. And so we continually see this area to grow. And hopefully, as was the case last year, in October, we would anticipate that waterfall may start rolling over. Of course,
yeah.
a lot of this may change with the November election and how we utilize those funds on the use tax if the use tax question passes. But the actual collections of it, which doesn't change based on the election,
Right.
are still moving very, very good, very solid online sales tax. Transient guest tax. Again, these are from the hotel sales. The good news is here, we're staying above where we were last year. Again, last year actually is the dark purple numbers. And as you can tell, and if you remember, that was a pretty drastic time during the pandemic. We're at pre-pandemic levels right now for our transient guest tax. And so we, during the budget process, we did lower our expectations. Again, if you look at the trend year over year, was definitely down. But what we did budget for, which is less than what we collected in 19, however, what we did budget for, we're right on track with that.
And this would be, I would say, without the Truman Library opening or any of that extra benefit that we could capitalize on.
Yes. Now the fact that the event center is up and running, and of course with our great hockey team, we're hopefully that's keeping up. But definitely when the museum opens up, that we definitely would see that increase also. Fund balance again is always a big question on this from this committee, and so we did prepare this report directly, showing where we are ending fund balance as compared to our policy. Quickly looking at it, the general fund is again, as we're all aware, not exactly where we'd like it to be. It's at $6 million. Our policy calls for 12 or 16%, which would be $12 million. And so we're not quite there. Street sales tax, it's lower right now. There was a large purchase order put in that obligated funds right at the beginning of the year. And that's why you're seeing the street sales tax fund balance actually dipped a little bit below because of that large encumbrance that was put in. Cindy, I'm sorry, I hate to call on you all of a sudden. Do you recall what that purchase order was? That might be of interest.
Yes, it was actually for Vance Brothers. It was for the patching and sealing contract.
So basically what we've done is we've encumbered that cost for the whole year in this first part of the year. So that's why you see the balance so low. The cash hasn't left. It's just we've obligated ahead of time all the patching for the year. And of course, I'd mentioned the property tax doesn't come in until November. So you'll see the health property tax and the Parks and Rec property tax be lower than what we'd like to see it, just because the first quarter of the year, the idea is that we try to get those cash balances up at the end of the year, then to carry us over until property taxes are collected in November. They're new funds. We're still trying to get up to speed with them and work with them on their budgeting to make that happen. So, but as of right now, we're below our fund balance policy on those two property tax funds, but that will be remedied again in November. And then finally, the utility ones, we've talked about this plenty of times before. Currently, the power and light is $15 million under its forecast. Water is above it. Again, we've talked about the fact that we're going to use that fund balance for their hopefully pretty aggressive water line replacement program, where they're spending down that fund balance instead of issuing any debt to do it. And then also the same with water pollution control. And then you'll see we added to the back of this what their plans are in the capital projects over the next 6 years to spend down that fund balance. I don't really have anything. I mean, there's other things of note that we try to mention in this. I think of really anywhere pandemic wise, you're still seeing municipal court revenue is down. And then franchise taxes are a little bit below. And again, the fines and forfeitures. And that's pretty much it. I'm open for any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments to Brian? I don't have any myself. Brian, thanks for that. So monthly investment portfolio?
Sure. I do want to pass along, if anyone is watching later on this, these, again, I want to point out, are all available on the finance department site. You go to the Independence Mo website, you go to the finance department, there's a place called reports where you can get all these reports. So I want to make sure people know and understand that. It's also attached to the agenda for these meetings also. On the investment portfolio, very straightforward. Right now our yield we're receiving is 1.19% interest. Doesn't sound like a lot. Our budget, we forecast that we would hopefully get 1% on our investments, and we're at 1.19%. So we're a little bit higher. I don't anticipate that lasting. We're continuing our higher interest our higher interest investments are starting to fall off that we locked into several years ago. And as those investments mature, then, the new investments aren't as lucrative. So we still have some high yield ones that are bringing that interest rate a little bit higher than 1, but we won't see that by the end of the year.
Brian, what's your feelings about the inflation that's beginning to move the needle some and will follow interest rate? What's your thought and feeling for the next 3 to 6 months on that?
Well, first I'll say I'm not an economist. But on the other hand, I will go ahead and from what I've heard from our investment people is they don't see a lot of impact on any type of movement so most of our investments are parked in 1 to 2 year investments, and they just don't see, they see that inflation's going to be handled, if you will, and don't see any kind of rapid things on those particular years. Short term is a little bit, again, unknown what's going to happen.
Well, I'm assuming with our major portfolio that we have, if they saw something coming over the horizon, they would pick up the phone pretty quick and tell you.
Yeah, so they make their money on the balance of how much money we have in our investment portfolio. If they saw, if they saw that something is risking that level of investments, yeah, they would be on the phone and asking us to move things around. So we don't anticipate, we don't get any type of that reaction from them at all.
Sure. Any questions from the committee?
I have a stupid question, so bear with me. I'm guessing, so correct me, Mr. Kidney, that we do these short-term investments because these are partially cash accounts and we have money moving in and out constantly.
Yeah, so we've about 138 million. Well, actually, why don't I just say what damage? We have 135 million. If you look at our portfolio right now, we have 135 million that we invest. 20 million of that is short term. 116 or 115.7 is long term. That short term is very specifically because yes, money comes in and out. We make sure, number one priority for all of us every other Friday, we want to make sure we get paid, and then obviously pay our vendors. So yeah, that's why we keep quite a bit liquid.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions for this topic? Thanks, Brian. Well, hearing none, moving forward to new business, travel and travel reports. Brian, the last page that I had, City of Independence budget, which was actual to date, is that what this is? Is this the travel expense?
Yeah, if you'd like, I could pull that up and show it on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. See if I do it correctly this time. Can you guys see the screen?
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
All right. So this was requested, and I could close it up a little bit. So this was requested, I believe, last or 2 months ago. This is quite simply, we take what we budgeted out of overnight travel costs. I think it's travel and registration costs for every department. Here's what, then we show what's been spent. Again, this is through September, and then kind of a variance to get an idea of what's going on. You might see some departments they'll budget their travel into one of their divisions. And then what we'll see later on is that they'll ask for a budget revision to move the money down from one of their large departments into cover the travel that they may have had for a prior one.
So reading this, the way it's formatted, it's interesting. I'm going to use like 4150 law grants. It has $5,000 budgeted. Police department grants has $12,025 budgeted. 4550. That title to me sounds really weird. If this is a travel budget, are you able to explain to that a little bit more detail why law grants, police department grants have travel budgets to them?
Sure. So the way this is set up, it's each of the departments, and then the fund that those departments are out of. So the 402 all the way down to 511, those are departments from the general fund. So what you're seeing there is the total for the general fund. So the totals are after the department. We do quite a bit of our transactions are grant related. We receive quite a bit of grants. The law department, that is our prosecutor for
Domestic violence.
yes, our domestic, yeah, that's Ellen. That's for domestic violence. Part of that grant includes travel training. So training budget, there's $5,000 as part of that grant that's available for her to get trained. And so that's why it's showing up in this separate grant area. Same thing with the police department, and same thing obviously with the health department. These are training dollars that are available through a grant. And so those are accounted for them. So that's not the city share. That's what you're seeing here is the actual grant share of any kind of travel or training that's paid for through a grant.
Have you, I'll ask a sort of a follow-up question. Obviously travel's way down because of COVID related issues. Have we heard through the departments, and maybe this is for Mr. Walker, have we heard through the departments that this is hindering their business, hindering their ability to get the work done? Are department heads telling you that they need it back, they need to do it more, they've missed it a lot?
So, Zach, I'll tell you what, I'll try to take a stab at that. So first of all, we're seeing more requests for travel than we have. So we're seeing travel expenses starting to pick back up. A A lot of conferences are opening up in person. I honestly think we're still not going to see the total expense that we used to pay, because now there's so much more training. It's set up online. I know, Cindy, I'm looking at Cindy right here. She's some of the debt training that we normally would go to is all online now, and it used to be you would travel to Minneapolis or something for that. So I don't think we're going to ever be back to where we used to be on the total expense, but I do know that we are definitely starting to see training pick back up, and some great training too. I can't help but, marvel at some of the training that we do send folks to. And again, those travel reports are also online. So if you want to see individual travel, you can go into that same place online, and the employees will actually put down, here's why we think this training was important, and here's what we learned at this training. So it's really informative. It's really a good process to go see. That's very transparent, very open.
Okay, good. I was just thinking, if it's not that much of the general fund overall, and I do understand in-person training is absolutely different than virtual training. But just big picture thinking as a organization, should we cut down the budget, but that may shake itself out, and we may just see what a natural budgeting is in post-COVID. So that's all, just a comment.
Good one. Anybody else have any questions on the travel report? I don't either. That concludes that. Does anybody have any new business they'd like to bring up? Any agenda items for the following meeting that we need to discuss? Anybody from staff that have any questions or comments, or before we adjourn?
I would just make one suggestion, and it's just because I'm excited about it. And it doesn't need to be for next meeting, but whenever it makes sense. I didn't know, Mr. Kidney, if you could do some forecasting on our increased use tax. Maybe it makes sense to wait a little bit after the November election, but I have great hopes that that'll help balance our budget in the next few years. You're muted, Brian.
Sorry, I sing a lot while you guys are talking, so I always want to mute it so you guys don't hear me doing that. But I'm not prepared to do that right now, but we do have that. We keep that use tax forecast really up to date. So we'd be happy to share that with where we are at the next meeting.
Maybe, yeah, if you want to do just an update, that's fine. If it makes sense to. If it doesn't, it's fine.
Sure.
That's it, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Council Member.
That's all that I have. I am looking forward to our council study session with the city manager's presentation on revenue comparisons to surrounding cities. Getting a little sneak peek of that. That's very timing. So looking forward to seeing that Monday. Gang, well, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
30 minutes, baby. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion carries. Everybody, thank you. Have a good Friday and have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, staff.